This is Amplify You, the podcast about you discovering your message and broadcasting it to the world. If you're a coach, author, or speaker, you'll want to tune in. If you're looking for the best return on your time investment to get your message out to the world in a bigger way, we're giving you full access and behind the scenes look of how we're running our podcast, how our clients have found success, and what you can do to launch your podcast today. The world needs your message. I'm Michelle Abraham, the host. Join my family as we unleash your unique genius and find the connections you need to launch your adventure today. Join us and let's get amplified. Hello, Amplify You, Michelle Abraham, your host here today. And I'm so excited, you guys. I've got an incredible guest for you. Not only are we going to talk about, an Ask the Expert topic today, all about retreats, but we're also going to share a little bit of behind the mic because my guest today has not one, but two podcasts. So let me introduce you to Ann Gordon. Hey, Ann, how are you doing?
Hey, Michelle, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. Amplify You family. Let me share a little bit more about Ann with you. So Ann's been running her successful whale and dolphin wisdom retreats since 2007. Don't those sound fantastic? I can't wait to hear more about them. She shares the wisdom of the dolphins and whales through transformational retreats to spend time with and deepen your spiritual connection with the natural world. So she's a retreat success coach who loves to share her comprehensive knowledge and experience of leading successful and lucrative retreats for the last 15 years with coaches, healers, and transformational leaders. She is dedicated to empowering you easily add six figures to their business by leading transformational retreats. Now, doesn't that sound like something? That's something I've always wanted to do and haven't done it yet. And we just shared that's probably one of the main reasons that you hear all the time is because what if nobody shows up, right? That's a real fear, right?
Yes, it is.
So what do you say to your clients that say, well, what if nobody shows up?
Well, what I tell them is you need to follow a retreat success system so that you set yourself up for success. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people make around that is they don't give themselves enough time to promote that retreat. So for example, if you're leading a week-long retreat, then I've seen people where they had a retreat going to Thailand and they give themselves 2 months to promote it. It's like, that's nowhere near enough time because some people, if your audience works a regular job, they have to schedule their vacation time a year in advance.
Right.
So I give people 9 to 12 months to fill a retreat, promote your retreat. So people have time to schedule their lives, their childcare, their elder care, their pet sitter, their vacation, everything in their life they have to juggle. And it also gives them time. Sometimes they need the time to raise the money for the retreat because a retreat is not a lower priced item. And so the more time you give them to promote and say yes, the more likely you will fill the retreat.
Oh my gosh. So now we're talking about retreats and you jumped right into the topic of retreats. Let's back it up for a second for our audience and maybe like, what the heck are you talking about a retreat? What does that look like? They're not used to being in this kind of space, not really heard about these retreats. Why would we want to do a retreat and what is a retreat?
Yeah, great question. And yeah, in the coaching industry, I see the word retreat used really kind of loosely. It's like people using retreats for a 3-day sales event or a deliverable where it's just content, or more of a workshop, not what I would call a retreat. When I'm talking about retreats, I'm talking about a destination. For example, an obvious one is Costa Rica for a yoga retreat.
Sounds good.
Right? And so, or Bali or Italy or something really magical where it's more about experiences than delivering PowerPoint content. So that the experiences, you may have a goal or a theme. Say, for example, you're doing a writer's retreat in Tuscany. Yes, you're going to have time for writing, but you're also going to go out and have powerful experiences and maybe do some wine tasting and maybe visit some castles and little villages so that you are inspired as a writer, not just sitting in a room writing, which you could do in Minneapolis, right? It doesn't you want to take the advantage of being in that location.
So by having those experiences, that experiential kind of learning, is that more like a transformation you see in people, then they're able to like, write better or kind of like do the goal of the retreat?
Yeah, for sure. Because the beauty about a retreat is we can teach you the content anywhere, and we can do it virtual. We could do it, anywhere in the world. However, when you go away, kind of step out of your comfort zone and you put away, you're not being distracted by your life, by your phone, by your emails, by all of that. You're all in. And the experiences help inspire you, but also bring out that play and that being in the present moment, which us humans were not so good about. And so that really helps. Now, here's the thing. When the very first retreat I ever led, I realized, I didn't know this before my first retreat, but I realized and I observed that when you create this safe, sacred space of a retreat, that it just beautifully, very gently allows limiting beliefs and blocked emotions and the things that's holding us back to bubble up and be released in a gentle way. And that's where the transformation happens. And what I like to say is on a retreat, you don't have to have a traumatic breakdown. And you don't even have to discuss it, yet you can still have a powerful breakthrough.
Now, is that something that's inspired by like the coaching or just the environment or like the people that are there?
It's how you create the retreat. So a lot of times it's the environment. I'll tell you a really powerful story that will illustrate this. I do an annual Gifts from the Gray Whales retreat in Mexico, where we go hang out with gray whales that come right up to the boat and we can touch them and pet them and kiss them. Wow. And it's just amazing. And I had a woman come on that retreat one year and I didn't know her at all. She was referred by a friend who had come the year before and loved it. So she came and she was a little reserved, didn't share much about herself, but she participated fully and she had a good time and enjoyed the retreat. And it wasn't until the final sharing circle that she told us how her husband and the family dog had died in this horrible car accident where the car just burst into flames and there was nothing anybody could do.
Wow.
And she was only 2 cars behind them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine the horror of that. Mm-hmm. And what she shared with us on that day was that on this retreat was the first time in 7 years that she felt happy again.
Oh, wow.
And we never even talked. I didn't even know this about her. Mm. And so when you design a retreat with powerful experiences and bring back that inner joy that we all have, then you get these powerful transformations.
Wow, that's incredible. That's so cool. Now, is a retreat appropriate for like all businesses, or are there some that, are better suited for retreats than others?
I think for most businesses, it probably could. Now, if you're a podiatrist or a dentist or, something like that, maybe not so much. But if you're interested in helping your people have, learn a better, healthy lifestyle, right? It can be. And for some businesses, it may be thinking a little outside the box. Mm-hmm. But if you're in the coaching business or service industry, there's corporate retreats for team building and, there's church retreats, right? And there's youth retreats and there's people recovering from grief or divorce. There's couples intimacy retreats. There's, stepping into empowerment retreats. There's women's retreats, men's retreats. There's spiritual retreats. Literally there's there's no limit to what your retreat can be.
Awesome. And if you're like a coach, would you recommend like doing a retreat, like to kind of be a part of like the things that you offer, like a once a year kind of thing?
Absolutely. If you're a coach and you're doing group coaching programs, or, even if you're just doing one-on-one, think of it this way. Imagine traveling to one of your bucket list destinations in the world with 10 of your favorite clients and getting to do the things you've always wanted to do and getting paid well for it. It's like, why the heck not?
Right.
And when you do that, your clients that come will become raving fans for life. Now, here's the difference between what happens on a retreat and what happens in one-on-one coaching or a group coaching program, or even a workshop or 3-day event, whatever. When you're doing all of that, you're the professional, you're, doing your job. When you're on a retreat, you're sitting, sharing a meal together. You're maybe going ziplining together, and you may be the one that's nervous about that. Yeah. And they get to see you. They may even see you in your jammies, right? They're seeing you as a real everyday person experiencing things together.
Wow.
And that takes your sense of community and connection to such a deep level that how can they not want to keep working with you after that?
Is there usually like an offer at the end of a retreat, or is that something that's just, it could be or not?
It can be. It depends on your retreat and what your goal for the retreat is. You can certainly make an offer, and it may be to come to the next retreat. Or it may be, hey, we've created this strong sense of community. Let's keep that going in a membership group or a mastermind.
Cool. Yeah, I love it. Oh, so many ideas in my head right now.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. So cool. So is it something that it costs the host a lot of money to put on a retreat, or is that something that like the cost is usually covered by the people's fees to come to the retreat?
It shouldn't cost the retreat leader a penny when you do it right. And that means that, and you don't even have to spend money out of your pocket to make a deposit on the venue or your hotel, whatever. You shouldn't have to spend any of your own money. And I do hear people saying, well, I could never afford to get started. Well, you shouldn't pay for it. Then there's some tricks to getting it. Like when you first announce your retreat, yes, you have everything figured out, and maybe the hotel is asking for a deposit before you announce it. But you're a year out. So you say, look, can I give you a credit card that you don't charge, right? That's one way, as a guarantee. Or you say, look, I'd like these specific dates. Can you give me a first right of refusal and hold those rooms for me for 2 months? And as soon as I have some people booked on the retreat, I will send you that deposit. And then when you announce that your retreat, you want to create some kind of like an early bird incentive, whether that's a maybe $200 discount on the retreat, or maybe it's some private time with you as a bonus. But a lot of people, with the way they do this early bird is, say you're announcing your retreat in June, and you're saying by August 1st, you have this window of this early bird discount. Well, what's going to happen is that people are going to wait till August 1st or July 31st, right? They're going to wait till the last minute, but you need that money now to pay those deposits. So instead of putting a date on that early bird, say for the first 3 people who book this retreat, I've gotten emails like within an hour of sending out that promo email. Am I still in the first 3? Can I get in on that? It's like, yes, you can.
In fact, all 6 of you can.
Right, exactly. Well, I actually don't. I really hold it to the 3. But if two booked at the exact same moment, sure, of course, before I had a chance to change that price. But yeah, you want that sense of instant urgency. And then, wow, and then you could even give a pay in full bonus, right? So that, if two people pay in full, as soon as I announce it, great, then I can pay my deposit to the venue.
Do the retreat leaders typically make money from the retreats too, or is it just kind of to cover the cost of them going in the experience?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because I see a lot of retreat leaders doing just what you said. I just want the free trip. I don't need to make any money. You should make money. There's no reason why you shouldn't make money. You should always build it so that you do make money on this. Now here, let's just I'm not a math person, but do some basic numbers. If your retreat, a week-long retreat, is $3,000, and your expenses are $1,700, I'm going to pull up my calculator because this doesn't work, and numbers don't work in my brain so much. But so it's 3,000 minus 1,700. That's $1,300. That's your profit. And if you've got 10 people, that's 13,000 people. If you had 20 people, that's $26,000.
Yes.
And what if you led 4 retreats a year?
That would be pretty
That's
great.
over $100,000 in profit from going and playing in your favorite location with your favorite clients, doing your favorite things.
Sounds
Why
pretty
not?
awesome. Yes, I know retreats have always been very attractive to me. I've been to 47 countries, and I love travel, and I see so much transformation when you have travel, and I've really missed it the last few years. So has the last few years really impacted your business and the retreat industry?
Yeah, totally. Obviously, people have been nervous about traveling for obvious reasons and lockdowns and so on. In a normal year, I lead 4 to 6 retreats a year. But in the last 2 years, I led 1.
Wow.
But 1 each year. But the amazing part was I was able to lead.
Yeah, that's retreat. Great.
And it was out of the country. It was in the Bahamas. And that retreat, I normally have 20 people on, but we went with smaller numbers. Like the first year was 8 people and last year was 12 people. So, but still, people were, and the beauty was we stayed at this kind of all-inclusive retreat center. We didn't, and the boat that we went out with, that was about swimming with wild dolphins, is docked right at the retreat center. So we never had to leave once we were there. And to get into the Bahamas, you either had to be vaccinated or have a negative COVID test. So once we got there, we knew everybody was in this COVID-free bubble, which was such a relief.
Yeah. Well, the good for you for being able to do it the last couple of years. That's awesome. And now are you seeing a lot more people interested in traveling? There's a lot more places opening up. That's more retreat centers are opening up again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to come back to this because I also want to mention that I did do a pivot in April 2020. I led my very first virtual retreat. Which was taking as many experiences as possible from a live retreat into a virtual format. Not just a workshop, not just all PowerPoints, but bringing in some improv games and some community building activities and movement and things like that. So it's a more whole body experience. And what I learned after I led the first one was like, how come I haven't been doing this the entire time? Because a virtual retreat is usually a very lower priced item. So if I do a 1-day, 6-hour virtual retreat, I charge $197. So it's it's a great way to take somebody who's been on your email list that has never purchased anything from you to becoming a paying client. And then that know, like, and trust factor goes much higher after the retreat is over. And it's a perfect way to then tee up your live retreat.
Awesome. I love it. So are the people that come to your retreat, do they usually know each other before, or they're brand new to each other?
Oftentimes, I mean, sometimes somebody will bring their spouse, their partner, a friend, their adult daughter kind of thing. But most people don't know each other. Mm-hmm. Yet it always works out that it becomes this beautiful aligned group. I mean, and I just led 2 weeks ago, I got back from my gray whale retreat in Mexico, and I had 8 people. And there was a friend of mine who came on it, and he had come on that retreat several years before. And he said, at the end, he says, I didn't expect to laugh so much this time because the group just really gelled, and there was so much play and laughter and silliness that it's just really beautiful to watch.
Oh, that's so fun. I love it. Well, you've got me excited about retreats again.
Nice.
So now you have 2 podcasts. So I want to shift to the behind the mic segment of this.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even know you had 2 podcasts until we started talking before the show. So this is great.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about the 2 different podcasts and what they're each about and what you can expect for as a listener.
Yeah, sure. So the first one is Transformational Travel. Mm-hmm. And one, as you were talking about all your travels, I need to have you as a guest on my show. And that is all about, I'm interviewing people who have had powerful life-changing experiences through travel. Now, that travel could be spending time at an ashram in India. It could also mean having a powerful aha moment walking in the park down the street from your house. So there's some really fun interviews on there, and I love talking to people about what they've learned and how their mindset, their perspective has shifted through travel. So that's one. The second one is called Dolphin and Whale Tales, TALES. And a lot of it is, some of them are interviews, most of them are just me talking and sharing the wisdom that I have learned through my observation and time as well as directly received in meditation with the whales and dolphins, and how that they're teaching us how we can live a better life.
I love that.
So that's a fun one too.
Have you always been involved in travel, or is this like a new kind of business for you in the last few years?
Well, I've always loved travel. My history is kind of weird. I studied biology and zoology and animal behavior in university.
Well,
I worked as a zookeeper. I trained wild animals to go out and do school educational outreach programs to teach a respect for wildlife. And then I also trained animals, wild and domestic, for movies and television.
Oh, cool.
For over 20 years. So animals have always been the theme.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Throughout.
See why the dolphins and whales.
Yeah. And I grew up boating in the Pacific Northwest. My dad had a boat. I grew up watching the orca whales. And then I got hired on a film that was shooting in Panama that hired a local indigenous tribe as the actors. And so I got to spend time with them and visit their villages, which they're still traditional villages deep in the rainforest, only accessible by dugout canoe. And I just fell in love with who they are as a people. And as fate would have it, I married one of them.
Oh, wow.
And that's obviously a whole other story. But his village survived on tourism. And when I moved down there to be with him, I mean, obviously there's not much of a film industry in Panama, so I couldn't really continue that career. And so I realized that people that came to the village to learn about the tribe were fascinated by me being married into it, and then my perspective as an insider and outsider. So I started working in tourism and being a freelance tour guide, and then started my own website to take people out to the village. And then I'm like, I'm in this country with 2 oceans 50 miles apart. what species of whales and dolphins are there here, and how do I get out to see them? And I found that nobody was doing whale watching in the entire country. And it's one of the easiest places in the world with humpback whales that come from both the northern and southern hemisphere to breed and give birth. And so I literally pioneered the whale watching industry in that country. And as I was doing the day tours, pardon the pun, I wanted to dive deeper into connection with my clients, as well as really get into the spiritual aspect of connecting with the dolphins and whales. That's when my retreats were born in 2007.
Oh, so cool. Wow, what a fascinating story. That's so interesting. I love hearing everyone's stories, how they got to where they are. It's always not necessarily a straight line.
Not at all. Not at all. But it's been great fun.
So now is whale watching still a tourism activity in Panama?
It is. I no longer live there, but there are many people, boat owners, and I trained a number of tour guides. And so there are people that are doing it now. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So your stake to claim was inventing whale tours in Panama. I love it.
I did.
So cool. So now, before we let you go, any last words for our listeners that maybe have been inspired by either going on a retreat or maybe leading one of their own? Any words for them? Words of wisdom.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned earlier about, are people traveling now? And I wanted to answer that before we get into the last words. And that is, yes, people are. I actually have 4 retreats scheduled for this year. My last one, the gray whale, was sold out with 8 people at a smaller number. My next one is in June, and it is almost sold out, and that's going to be 20 people. I just have a few spots left on that. I have an orca retreat in the Pacific Northwest. That one is half full. I have swimming with humpback whales in French Polynesia in October, and that one is half full.
That sounds amazing.
People are interested in traveling. Yes.
That's great. That's good to hear. It's good to hear that, that could be something I think you'll put on hold for a little while there.
Right. It can be done. Sometimes there's some testing that needs to be done, but we just figure that in. Yeah. Now, as far as one last
question on that before I let you answer your last final words. Now, do you recommend people go to where the retreat's going to happen first before they lead the retreat there?
Ideally, yes. So you have firsthand experience in that area, but it's not required. I have led retreats in areas that I had never been before. But then you look for a local kind of coordinator or somebody that can be your on hands where you can ask them, well, how close is it to the grocery store? How do we get to restaurants? What's a really fun local activity to do rather than just doing it all on the internet?
Cool. Love it. And my last question, another last question. Are you going to do more virtual retreats? Was that a success? Did you like doing those?
I love those. And absolutely, I am continuing to do virtual retreats to prime the pump and set people up and invite them to the live retreats for sure.
Love those.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay. Now you can answer the other question.
Okay. The last words are, so as I mentioned earlier, how I saw how on my very first retreat, how these beautiful transformations that happen kind of organically when it's a beautifully well set up retreat. So I know that not everybody's going to come on a whale and dolphin wisdom retreat. That's just, my flavor of retreats. But when I can empower you to lead a transformational retreat, I see it as spreading this beautiful wave of transformation, like the ripple effect around the world. That just consider the impact in my story about the woman whose husband died. If you can make that kind of impact in the lives of your clients, why not?
Yeah, why not, guys? Why not? Yeah, I love it. Well, Anne, thank you so, so much. This has been so great to learn more about what you're up to and how retreats can really help transform businesses and just the transformation of the people in your business and your clients and your colleagues. And yeah, I just love it. I'm so glad that retreats are coming back and we're back in business. Now we can look
Yes.
forward to traveling again. And phew, we can do
Yes.
it.
Yes, we can.
Awesome.
And do you want to share the free gift that I have?
Sure. Yes, please.
So I have, and I'm sure you'll put the link in the show notes.
Yep.
And that is, I have a guide, the top 10 strategies to fill your retreats, because I know that is probably the number one fear about leading retreats. Mm-hmm. So we'll make that available to everybody who goes to that link.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne. That's awesome. We'll make sure we put those links to that in the show notes for you all. Listeners, Amplify You family, thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been so great to hear Anne's wisdom from her retreats. And I just would love to hear from you guys. Are you interested in retreats? I'm thinking about putting together a podcasting retreat. Would love to know what your thoughts are on that. So hit me up in a message in the comments and we look forward to chatting with you again. Thanks, Anne, so much for today.
Thanks for having me. And I just want to say, podcasting is a great way to attract people to your retreats. And I have had people come from my podcast that join my retreats. Awesome. So it's a perfect combination.
Yeah, that's awesome. A great call to action from your podcast. Join our retreats, right? Because that's what your podcast listeners want, is that next step in getting to know you.
Yes.
And so what a great way to do that. Awesome. Thanks so much, Anne. We'll take care. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Michelle.